Ed Marsh, here to discuss a really strange manufacturing marketing topic. Let's start by thinking about what happens on the production floor. Most companies have a reject bin, and they have a metric for some percentage of defective products as a percent of total production that they consider acceptable. In a Six Sigma world, that's really probably a very low number, some small fraction of 1% in most cases. And someone is responsible for consistently reviewing the defective products in the reject bin to determine the nature of the defect, whether there are any trends that require intervention, and if there are consistent issues, initiating some sort of effort to identify and correct the root cause. This is just second nature at this point in most companies. So now, compare this production scenario, where we engineer the process, set a limit on defects, constantly work to identify and correct root cause problems, with the way manufacturing, marketing metrics, and sales KPIs are handled. In the latter case, there's a bass-ackwards approach. I'm sure you've seen decks, dashboards, and reports that are chock-a-block full of vanity metrics. Things like, we had 7,000 visitors on our site last month, we generated 400 leads from the last trade show, our ad campaign with the industry trade journal generated 73 leads, etc. You know how that kind of data and metrics sound. But here's what you probably never heard. 90% of the website traffic bounced. Of the remaining 10%, only half visited more than one page, and only 15% converted through a form or chatbot. In other words, most of the traffic was probably there by mistake. A lot came for one question but didn't dig any further. And for all your investment in the web, you only convert visitors to leads at a 1.5% rate. That's a pretty high defect rate, isn't it? Shouldn't we run a Kaizen on that and set improvement targets, run a few PDCA cycles to try to improve that? But here's more that you haven't heard as well. Of all those trade show leads that were generated, nobody told you that no one ever reached out to 20% of them. That another 50% only had one contact attempt, and of the remaining 30%, only 50% turned into meetings, and only 20%, or just 6% of the total, into qualified opportunities, and none of those closed. If you ever heard that your AR folks only sent 50% of invoices, or that purchasing only checked receiving against billing on 10% of your orders, or any of countless other routine functions that are constantly checked for consistency and quality were not, you'd have a bird. Business can't run that way. Well, guess what? Neither can sales and marketing. And that's precisely why so many companies have the frustrations they do. Low close rates, not enough deals, not enough leads, too few opportunities, consistent discounting, longer sales cycles, frustration between marketing and sales, and expensive sales turnover. The list goes on. So let's pump the brakes. And instead of doing more of the same and just trying to automate it, instead, let's look at what lessons we can take from the best practices that make manufacturing consistent and apply those to marketing and sales. In fact, let's start today with a realistic look at the defect rate in website visits and lead generation. And let's get serious about affecting manufacturing marketing metrics. Bringing production and operation insights to marketing and sales is the premise of my overall revenue effectiveness framework.